In this video, we're going to take our first look at the Send Newsletter interface, and we'll learn how to load an existing draft. First, we'll choose what category we want to send our newsletter to. So let's just say here that we want to send a general newsletter to our Fres News category. So I'll select that here. And for the purpose of this demonstration, I'd actually like to filter my choice down to the subscribers that I have in this list that actually contains my own email. So I'll use SmartView to filter down the list by typing BFB in the email header. And now I'll click on the Send Newsletter button. And we can see we have a new interface here. At the top we have information about who we're planning to send a newsletter to. We'll be able to change this along the way, but for now we can see that we're sending out to those recipients in the category Fres News whose email contains BFB. If I were to click on the View Recipients button, I have another pop-up window here where I could review or even change the list of recipients. Okay. The next thing we'll notice is the Load Draft link here. I might be in a situation where I've just begun the process of getting a newsletter up and running and I needed to build the newsletter up from scratch. But let's imagine here that we want to send a newsletter based on a draft that's already been started. If I click on the Load Draft link and choose Fres News March here and select, then we'll see that we've automatically filled out a bunch of settings and content here based on what's already been selected for this draft. Let's continue our tour of the Send Newsletter interface here. We can see that there is an area for Sender Email, which is the email that received responses from the newsletter. And we essentially have a title here that's in plain English enclosed in parentheses. And the name of parentheses is the name that appears in most email clients. It's a nice feature to create a professional and personal email. The next field, heading, is the subject of the email, which also appears in the recipient's overview of the mail. And then we have an area called type, and we can see here that there's a fundamental choice where we can choose either HTML or page. I should also mention that emails can be sent out as plain text, but this option has been disabled in the current example. We'll look more at that option later on. Sending out a mail in HTML format means that we could use the editing area here below to create our email. That's to say we could create the graphic look with formatted text, links, images, and tables. I should note there will be a difference in the way that different email programs display the email, and I'll discuss this more later on. There's a button here called Edit Layout to the right of the HTML button selection, and this is a sort of wrapper that we could use if we had some kind of content like a header or a footer, which we prefer to put in this wrapper. Whether or not we use this feature is totally up to us, and actually I've decided not to use it here in this example, so we could just pass over. Now, if I were to choose page, I could actually select a page from our page hierarchy. That's to say, the pages that exist under the main point pages. That's where we otherwise have the content which makes up our website. If we decide to do this, we should keep in mind that we'll be best served by creating a page that's designed to be a newsletter. Alright, in this video we've begun to take a look at the Send Newsletter interface, and we've learned how to load an existing draft. In the next video, we'll round out our look at the interface by looking at how to edit and send a newsletter.